Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Harshita Jasti, and today we are going to be talking about mental models. Yes, and we are going to be talking about the most controversial man, Elon Musk. Elon Musk has been caught up in dramas leading from Twitter, space exploration, OpenAI, and whatnot. But you cannot deny the fact that he does have a knack for innovation, and he's a billionaire. So he's done something right. So let's think about the mental models that he uses to make decisions. We are going to be talking about first principles thinking. First principles of thinking basically asks you to reverse engineer your problem. If you have a problem, keep asking why until you get to the fundamentals of that problem. Our usual way of thinking is called fundamental order of thinking. What that means is if you have a problem, you try to look for a solution based on the limitations of the problem. And you try to see, has this problem been resolved in the past? Likely it has, because we humans have been on Earth for a really long time. So the same problem that you've been having, someone else probably had the same problem and they figured out a solution for it. What we do is we take that solution and modify it a little bit to fit our needs, and then we solve our problem. So the issue with this is we keep iterating on solutions that already exist, and there is no space for innovation, and the ideas are becoming stagnant. So that's the issue with the fundamental way of thinking. So what first principles thinking suggests is you completely reverse engineer the problem. Don't think about limitations. Think about the problem space itself and think about the fundamentals of the problem, and keep asking why until you get to the core of the issue. This is a very complex mental model and requires a lot of examples and steps to understand it. So don't worry, I'll walk you through it. First, let's look at an example. Let's look at Elon Musk and space exploration. Elon Musk wanted to get into the business of rockets. He wanted to do SpaceX, and NASA already exists in that space, and it's been launching space exploration rockets for a really long time. So Elon Musk, what he did was he went in and took that particular problem space and he tried to deduce it to its most basic point. What is really required for rockets and what is happening right now? All of this founded research and fundamentals about how space rockets are. One of the main things about this is space rockets are very heavy. They take up a lot of money and they are not reusable. Most of the parts of the space rockets get burned, especially boosters, after the space rocket leaves our planet. Along the process of developing SpaceX, Elon Musk started challenging all of these assumptions using the very own first principles of thinking. He went to the fundamentals of space rockets, what he knew was to be true, the base fundamental, and he reverse engineered up from there. And then he designed something called as Falcon Heavy, which is a never seen before space rocket, which had reusable boosters. I'm sure everybody have seen these videos of the boosters coming and landing on the pad. Oh my God. And this kind of innovation comes from this order of thinking. So this is a very complex but a very helpful mental model for reverse engineering and innovation. And how can you apply this very level of thinking into your problems and your events to think about innovation? So this mental model heavily helps with innovation, so that's what we're going to focus on. First thing, take the problem that you want to solve and boil it down to its fundamentals by asking the question. Basically nag the problem. Keep asking why, and come down to a fundamental point after which you cannot ask why anymore. This is the base point and you know that this is the truth and this is how it is. There's no change. So come down to that last base point. And how do you come to that last base point? You challenge the assumptions. Why do I know that this is true? How do I think that is true? What kind of evidence exists that this is true? And consider alternative perspectives of these assumptions, right? So, for example, they're stating that space rockets cannot have reusable items and reusable parts. And you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to think about it in an alternate perspective. What if space rockets did have reusable parts? What's going to happen then? Examine the consequences. Just because you're creating an alternate assumption or an alternate perspective doesn't mean that your assumption is essentially true, right? There are cases when then your assumption will actually be right and cases when it'll be wrong. So think about the consequences. If your assumption is wrong, what is the consequence? And are you okay to deal with that consequence? For example, think about the same reusable boosters, right? So they developed this reusable boosters. They did all of these research. They wanted to think about it. If they did not do that, SpaceX or Falcon Heavy probably would not have been a huge success, but it would have still behaved as a normal rocket and not had drastic issues that would cause probably launch failure or rocket failure, right? So these kind of issues, if it's not a part of it, then that's a thing that you can take up. Let's take another example. Elon Musk, during the initial days of his SpaceX, did give an interview where he talked about an example of first principles of thinking. He talks about battery packs. Battery packs are really expensive and really heavy, and that's just the standard and a pre-existing belief that exists in the industry. So Elon Musk took this idea and he was like, okay, why is it like that? Why is it this heavy and why does it cost this much? So he went down and he got into the fundamentals of a battery in the sense like its components, like how much does each component cost, right? He talked about the electrolyte, the anode, and the cathode of the battery, and he was like, how much does it take to actually build these components? He priced it on the London Exchange, calculate the construction costs, and he came up with an idea, and he came up with a way to make batteries just 13.3% of the cost of an actual battery. And he was able to do this by actually clearing through the fog of pre-existing beliefs and coming up with an idea using his first principles of thinking. So it did save him a lot of money. So first principles of thinking either will help you innovate and come up with an idea for an existing thing that nobody has thought about before, or it will give you a lot of money because you're taking a pre-existing thing, boiling it down, and trying to cut costs. This is a very complex model, so don't worry if you don't understand it in the first bet. You can rewatch this video again, or there are a lot of resources that I'm going to share below that you can use to learn about the first principles of thinking. This is a complex mental model, but again, mental models are specific to people and it depends on the environment around them and it depends on the kind of person that they are. So if this is not a mental model for you, don't worry, there are numerous others, and this is just a nice skill to have on your backpack. So, you know, if you face a problem, solution, you can just take that mental model and use it, right? And I also have another video on Jeff Bezos and regret minimization framework, which is a much easier mental model than this. So if this is not something that's your cup of tea, do check that out. I'm going to tag it here. And thank you for watching my video. And that's all we had for today from Harshita Just.